Fasten your seatbelt. It's going to be a bumpy night.
Welcome to the Happy Hour Garage, featuring a duo of racing gals who live for the thunder of horsepower, the smell of high-octane fuel, and burning rubber at 200 miles an hour. They believe a day at the Speedway is like a day at the spa. Together, they bring you NASCAR news and interviews and get you ready for the races each week. And now, here's your hosts, Shannon Yoakum and Maureen Kelly from the Happy Hour Garage.
Gentlemen, start your engine.
Hello, everybody. Happy Saturday, and welcome to the Happy Hour Garage. I'm your host, Shannon Yoakum. I'm calling you from snowy, oh my God, snowy Vernon, British Columbia. Man, I don't think it's ever going to stop. Thank you, Dad, for the snowblower. Oh my God, I'd have a sore back if it wasn't for my dad. Thank you. I am joined today by my lovely co-host, Maureen Kelly from Pennsylvania, where I'm sure there's no snow.
No snow. We've been waiting for it.
You can have it.
I want some, you know. This time last year, I think we were buried several times. So we've had warmth and, even today it's in the upper 50s right now. It's highly unusual for my section of the state this time of year.
I think the whole East Coast last winter got nailed pretty bad all winter, so I guess it's our turn over on the west side. Oh, jeez.
Things can change in a heartbeat, as we know, so.
Absolutely. I don't care. In 2 weeks, I'll be at Daytona, where it's nice and sunny and warm, and that's all that matters.
I can't wait for you to get there. It's going to be a lot of fun.
It is. Hey, we got a great guest today. I can hardly wait to talk to him. Mike, I was thinking about how to introduce you, and I mean, you've been tumbling every which way. You've done lots of interesting things in your career. Your wife is a member of one of our groups and has been for many, many years. So we've gotten to know her a little bit. We'd like to welcome to the show Mike Affarano, the Sherwood, Illinois native. Now you're up in Illinois today. I'm not sure why. Are you visiting family?
No, I actually have a house up there. My wife prefers to stay up here, and it's cold. Let me tell you, it's cold.
Oh, you poor thing. How cold is it there today?
Tomorrow, they're saying between tomorrow and Monday, it's supposed to be like 30 below zero with the wind chill.
Oh, you're way up. Way up.
Yeah, it's you can keep that stuff. I'm ready to go to Daytona myself.
Are you going to go down to Daytona?
We're looking for a little bit more sponsorship. The truck's done, so we're close. Everything goes well, God willing, we'll be there.
Well, that's good. That's good, guy. I know you race. You've raced in some truck races. You've raced at Eldora, which was, you got to tell us about that for sure. And you've raced, qualified for the Xfin race, or didn't qualify at Richmond. And I think you've been 5-6 truck races so far.
Yeah, we did. I think we did 5 or 6 actual races, and then we had like 4 or 5 attempts with Tim Vaines that he didn't make the show. So I mean, we're getting more and more. We can get a little bit of support. We let them run the whole season.
Tim Vaines, yeah, that's funny. He's now driving for our guest we had on last week, Mike Harmon.
Yes.
Yeah, I think he's going to come on the show and talk to us eventually. So, well, I hope you get some sponsorship and show up, and I'll come and say hi. That pink truck you had, was that at Eldora, that pink truck?
Yes.
Yes, it was. I remember. Yep.
Yeah, that was pretty cool. Hey, why don't you tell everybody how you got started in racing and all that sort of stuff?
Well, it started a long time ago. When I was a little kid, 6, 7 years old, a gentleman moved next door to me that happened to race, and the deal was if I would wash his car and keep it clean during the week after he came back from racing, I got to go to the racetrack with him.
Ooh.
So I started going to races from like I was 7 years on, and then when I hit like 13, 14 with a little bit of false signatures and a little bit of help from some friends, and we started racing at our local dirt track.
What kind of cars were you racing?
Back then they were just, they originally I started doing street stocks, and I ran demolition derbies, and I did figure 8 races, and then we moved into the sportsman class, which were stock chassis frames, and then they build a roll cage on that, and whatever body type we'd make our own body. So usually they were the Buicks. They were easy to make.
That figure eight racing, now that is crazy stuff. I've seen that on TV. That is just insane racing.
Yeah, I'm one of those guys that liked it all. It didn't matter, if it was asphalt or dirt or snowmobiles or lawnmowers. If it was racing, I was there.
Good. And then where'd you go from there?
Went from there and got older and started making some money and moved into a sportsman class. And then from there, we moved up to limited late models. And then I quit for a while. And as the years go by, you always think and say, well, I always wanted to go ARCA racing. Back in the day, I was a tire changer and a head mechanic for Bob Dotter Sr. So I used to go to all the tracks with him and work on the cars and everything. I said, one of these days I'm going to do this. And 2012, I decided, okay, enough talking about it, let's do it. And we went ARCA racing. That led into the NASCAR Truck Series. And then we bought an Xfinity car and put Johanna Long in there for Richmond, like you said, and that didn't work out so good. I think I just tried to bite off a little bit more than I could chew.
It's pretty hard to get into this series at that level. I mean, wow, those guys got lots of money. Even the guys that don't have money, like I know Mike Harmon was telling us last week, it's a tough go. I mean, you referred one time to the templates and the lasers and all that sort of stuff. I mean, you guys don't have those kind of tools, do you?
No, and to be honest with you, nobody does. I mean, it's really when you see somebody like, I know Tony Clements, Jeremy Clements pretty well. I know, a lot of them guys, and when they go there and they're having the same problems as we are, and they've been in the sport for a long time, it's like, wow, I think it's just too much for me right now. We need to stay in trucks and learn a little bit more and see what it's about. But, yeah, we got into the Xfinity side. It was like, night and day. It was totally different.
Yeah, I think, like Shannon mentioned, I think there's a huge difference when you guys are trying to pop your way in and you don't have the engineering situation that Dale Jr. has when he sets up his Xfinity cars. That's got to be not depressing, but, it almost has to prevent you from even attempting those races.
Well, I have a theory about that myself. On one hand, it gives you something to shoot for and a goal to achieve. And then the other hand, it's like, why are they even there? When you get somebody like, you got Kyle Busch Motorsports or Brad Keselowski in the Truck Series, it's like, okay, other than you're coming down here to take the money, why would you be here? And NASCAR, I think, should police that a little bit. They don't belong there. I mean, that series is for the up-and-coming people. So we get Truck Series, we're able to run good with that. And, okay, we want to move up to the Xfinity side. Well, now you're dealing with all the Cup guys.
Right. Well, we were talking with Mike about that. Like, how would you want it to be? If you could reset the truck program and then the Xfinity program, how would you reset that?
Well, the Truck Series made a huge leap in the right direction in my eyes. They're going to the spec motor. So, and it's not mandatory. Like Kyle Busch could still run his motors that he has. And, Brad Keselowski still run his motors. But what it did was whoever has the spec motor, they're going to level the playing field. So if they're making 500 horsepower with their plate, they're going to make sure that spec motor makes 500 horsepower with our plate. So if they want to spend an extra $1 million to get an extra 5 horsepower, NASCAR said that's fine, but we're just going to give the spec motor a bigger plate.
Right.
So that levels the playing field there. I mean, they still have the advantage because they're bringing down their head engineers setting up the trucks. They're bringing down, the world's fastest pit crews, So,
yeah.
But the racing on the racetrack itself is going to be closer, and you're going to see a lot of guys that are usually, like myself, riding around the back or trying to get up to speed. We're going to have that speed now because all the people that are in them trucks that are racing, they belong there. I mean, they paid their dues through the smaller tracks and worked their way up. I mean, they're all capable of driving. It's just when you can't go out and buy, and that's what a lot of the fans don't understand. if I went to GM and said, okay, I want to buy an RO7 motor and I want to build an RO7 motor, that's what the Cup guys run. I can't even buy that technology. It's not even available to me.
Right.
So when Kyle Busch is bringing down Triad motors, or Brad's bringing down the Ford motors, we don't even have that technology available to us. So it's sort of like, you're racing against something that you can't even have, you can't touch, you can't buy. So I really like the idea with the spec motor. I think that's a huge step in the right direction. And I don't believe that Cup drivers should be able to race in the Truck Series. I mean, they're there for one reason. If they want to race and they want to get the points, fine, let them. But wherever they finish, if they finish first, they should get paid 31st place money. If they finish second, then they should get paid 32nd place money. And leave the guys that are like us that are there every weekend trying to build our program, trying to build new trucks, trying to, we don't have factory support like Kyle Busch does. All this stuff is taken care of. It don't cost him nothing. Everything I have costs me money.
Right.
So, I mean, that's where I think NASCAR's got to look at it. Those guys don't belong down there. Xfinity, and as far as the Xfinity side, that's fine. Kyle Busch is a Cup driver. If he wants to own, I don't believe no Cup owner should own an Xfinity team.
Oh, interesting.
It is.
I mean, you're taking away from the guys that are trying to move up the sport. Yeah, and then the other thing I don't like is provisionals. You're giving 30 or 25 locked-in positions in the trucks away. So the guys are like, we had 35 or 38 trucks show up to tracks and people had to go home. They ought to start 40. And if you're the 10th fastest, then guess what? You should be in the race. If you're the 35th fastest, then you should be in the race. Not, I've been sent home where I was fast enough on speed, but somebody else had a provisional because, they go to the races every week. And, a lot of them have been Kyle Busch, has 2 trucks, 3 trucks, sometimes 4. Brad Keselowski brings his 2 trucks all the time. I mean, that's not right. You're taking away the guys that are trying to learn. How are you going to learn these tracks, or how are you supposed to get up to speed if they send you home every week? Yeah, it's a national series. Yeah, you're supposed to be a good driver. But, you can't do it if you don't have time on the track.
Right.
So
and if your equipment isn't, obviously, like you were just saying, if your equipment isn't the same type of thing, it's very discouraging. I've often thought to myself, I wonder, how discouraging is it to drive all the way across the country to run somewhere on the West Coast and not get that opportunity because you missed out by 2 spots?
Well, the biggest thing is with me, and I have no filter because I'm older, where a lot of people have their mouth shut and they, it's NASCAR and they're not going to say nothing bad and they're afraid. What you see with me is what you get.
All right.
Okay, and me and NASCAR has had this discussion before. I mean, I went all the way up to Texas, ran my truck the week before at Kansas, went to Texas, got there, and going through tech, they say, we don't like your exhaust, you got to change it. If you don't change your exhaust, you're going home. Well, wait a minute, it's the same exhaust that I've ran since I started racing. Now all of a sudden you don't like it? So, I mean, that's sort of BS kind of crap that they pull. So, yeah, no, it's very disheartening. You go to a track and you put everything in it, and you pay for your guys like Richmond. We rented a crew cup for Johanna, so that cost me, good money. And, I mean, we didn't make the show. Well, they still had to get paid.
Yeah.
And when you come down to it, it happened to be Richmond, and it was flooded with 8 Cup drivers that just, okay, hey, man, we're going to be running the Cup Series that week. So, we'll just grab a ride off of somebody, or we'll grab off a backup truck. I mean, there's a lot of trucks in the Truck Series that if you look, they call them their glorified starting parts, that teams will pull out a backup truck and run it, and they'll knock you out of the field, and they know they're only doing 3 laps. That's where I think they got to police. If you're going to go there and you're going to attempt to, I mean, don't get me wrong, stuff happens. You blow a clutch, you blow a motor, and you can't finish the race. It happens to everybody. But, I mean, you're getting 4 or 5 guys that show up there, and they pull out a backhoe truck and make 3, 4 laps just to take the money and to put you on the trailer. I mean, realistically, NASCAR starts 32 trucks, and at the drop of the green, the race is down to 22.
Yeah, that doesn't sound right.
And then out of them 22, say it's a good day where KBM brought 4 trucks and Brad bought 2, so 6 of them trucks are, do the math. You get down there and it's like, why would a fan go to a race when KBM or B&K or the 88 Matt Crafton's going to win?
Well, I can tell you, the fans, when those races are on and those guys are in there, they're complaining loudly, believe me, and I think that NASCAR is looking to do something about that. We've asked a number of drivers that race in those series about that. Is it more important to learn from these guys and to feel good about beating them, or do you resent them being in there? And most of them, you have no filter. The ones with filters danced around it, but they basically said the same thing you did.
Right.
Well, it's straight up. I'll tell you, and I know I take heat from it. Matt Crafton does not belong in the truck series. Matt Crafton could go up to Cup and win.
Yeah, it's time for him to go up.
He's just that talented of a guy. He's been around the sport a long time. It's sort of a joke that he's there, and I get a real big kick out of the media when they say, "Oh, Kyle Busch won the truck series race and he won this race." Really? Are you guys dumb? It's like, why would you need to go there when you don't win the race and go, okay, what the hell is wrong with you?
Yeah.
Well, what's the deal? I mean, the guy's got the best money could buy on the track, and and it's not even that. This is what NASCAR don't get. If I want to go to Chicagoland and test, it costs me $20,000. It costs me $10,000 to rent the track. It costs me $7,000 for tires, and then I got travel. Okay. Kyle Busch goes to Chicagoland. He runs the truck race, so he gets, let's just say, 80 laps there in the truck race. He runs the Xfinity race. He gets another, say, 80 laps there before he gets in the Cup car to make his race. So by the time he gets to the Cup, he's already done that Cup race once already.
Mm-hmm.
He knows where the bad spots are at in the track. He knows where, how the rubber is on the track. He knows where all the bits and hoo-has are on the track. Of course the guy's going to be good. He's a smart driver. He knows he could do this, and he's doing it. God bless him. But you also got to look at the guys that are just starting that, okay, if we want to test, I can't say, okay, hey, NASCAR, yeah, I'm going to jump in the Cup car because I want to get some more laps in this race so I can figure out the track. They're going to laugh at me. You go back down in the truck, you need to make some laps and learn. So, but what they don't see is they're taking the guys out of the race that want to learn. Kyle's coming down. All these guys are coming down. You get the guys pulling their backhoe trucks out. So, no, those guys don't belong in a race.
I guess the obvious question there is, why would you not only attempt races that are independent races of the Cup guys or the Xfin guys? Because there's lots of separate races, is there not? I mean, Vegas, for instance.
Well, yeah, there's a lot of them, but if you look at the fields, even when the trucks are off away from the tracks, where the Cup guys are, these guys got helicopters to their, at their beck and call. They're flying in, doing the races, and then flying to the tracks to make the next race the next day. So they're still coming down to our race and racing it.
Yeah, that's true. Good point.
It is.
I mean, even Eldora, the Cup cars were across country. And you have Brad Keselowski and everybody flew in. Austin Dillon was there. Ty Dillon was there.
Kyle Larson.
I mean, it takes away from the guys that are trying to learn. I mean, how are you going to learn these tracks if you can't even get on them? I mean, if they take those clowns out of the picture and say, okay, hey, you made it. You're Cup level. Your granddaddy put you up there. I mean, don't get me wrong. They deserve to be there. They're good drivers. They've got more than enough talent to be there, But they're Cup drivers. They don't need to be in the truck series.
That's a sentiment that a lot of people have that. A lot of people agree with you on that.
Yes, including people outside the sport. I mean, not outside the sport, but non-drivers. Shannon and I have talked about it before. I prefer a race that's where the majority of the drivers are truck drivers.
Yeah.
I love the truck races.
When I had my business up in Illinois, I would sponsor a lot of races at different tracks, and I would always sponsor the most money. I mean, on my street stocks, in my street stock division that I would sponsor, I paid them guys $1,000 to win a street stock race. And they're like, the late models ain't even getting paid that. What's the deal? It's because that's the best racing you will watch on TV or you will see.
Absolutely.
There is so much better racing to watch if you go to a local track than you go to, I hate to say it because I race NASCAR, but there's better races at your local track.
Well, I think that's evident in attendance, right? And lots of people are wanting to go back to the old way. Give the drivers a personality, stop putting handcuffs on them, and let them race and get those Cup and Xfin guys out of the trucks. Because the trucks are very popular. They're huge on our Facebook groups. People love them.
Yep.
Because they're down-to-earth kind of racers. They just beat and bang and carry on. When we interviewed Ron Hornaday a couple of months ago, he said basically the same thing you're saying.
Yep.
And I don't want to pick on NASCAR because that's not what I'm doing or I'm not trying to do. But when you go to, like, a truck race or let's say a drag race, I don't know if you guys are into drag racing because I love drag racing
am.
too.
Yep.
Okay? So you go to an NHRA event. You can walk right up to any of your drivers you want, John Force, his daughter, anybody. Walk right up to the pits, sit on the side of their car, talk to them, and they're there.
Talk to their crew, everything. You got it.
Have you ever gone to a NASCAR, a cup race, and watched them guys, them clowns come out of their motorhome coaches? They're going 100 miles an hour in their golf carts. They almost run you over. They don't stop for the fans. Do you want to know when they stop for the fans? The camera's on. Oh, the sponsor's here. Oh, let me stop and sign an autograph to look good on TV. The cameras go off. They don't pay the fans to not even a tour of recognition at all. Where the truck series, all the guys are out. We sit around our trucks. They come out. The fans, I put kids in my truck. Or take a picture from their truck. I don't care.
Yep.
Say, what are you going to do? You ain't going to hurt it. And take pictures, sign some autographs, and I mean, me and my wife go out. Yesterday, we're at Chuck E. Cheese, and a guy comes up to me, man, you're like Affarano. What are you doing at Chuck E. Cheese? I got kids. They're all playing. I'm just a regular person. I choose to race for a living.
And that's what we're missing. That absolutely. You are so right there. That they're getting themselves. Yeah, they are, and they're getting too distant, and they're losing the connection to the fans. And reality is happening. People tracks are pulling out grandstands.
Yep.
As a result, yep. And Shannon and I are both in the same age group you are.
Yep.
And we remember what it was like when you could chat with these guys, when you could chat with their pit crews and stuff. That's long gone. Gone.
You could go up to Richard Petty and he'd sign an autograph for you. Dale Earnhardt, any of those guys, Ned Jarrett, Benny Parsons, they'd all be happy to do that for you. Now, for a fan to even get even close to them, there's this big guarded secret about how to get in the garage, and it's not easy.
No, I mean, there's a lot of people that yell through the fence because a lot of people don't have the extra money to get a hot pass or to get into the pit area. And I tell everybody, hey, after the race, I'll be outside here. I've unloaded my truck in the middle of infield to let fans take pictures with my truck.
That's cool.
And sit around and talk to people and sign autographs. And, that's what the sport's about. People don't realize when you look at a 7 or 8 year old boy, you might be looking at the next Jeff Gordon or Dale Earnhardt or whatever. I mean,
or Brian France.
yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, but the way they shun people off, it's like, how are you supposed to make connections with the young guys?
Yes.
Or the young kids that are coming up? Or, I mean, it's happened to me 100 times where, I mean, I've been at a racetrack watching quarter midgets race, the little kids, 7, 8 years old, and stand up and walk up to the little kid, and the father's screaming at the kid, you should have done this, you should have done that. And I walk up to the kid and say, man, you did a good job. And the father looks at me, who the hell are you? And the kid looks and goes, you don't know who that is? and he looks, he goes, he races NASCAR. And then the father's like, oh, man, you want to come in and, have lunch or whatever? I said, no, man, I'm fine. I said, but looked at his son and said, you did a good job, man. You're just learning. That's what it's about. You don't want to make it where it's a job for the kids. You don't want to make it where they don't have access to you. You want to get it where, they look up to you. Hey, man, this is Jeff Gordon, or hey, this is, Jimmy Johnson, or this is, that's what these kids do. And it's like, I watch it every time I go to track, and I'm like, man, you guys are screwing up the sport I love.
Mm-hmm.
What's wrong with you? Go out there, talk to that kid. Go out there, tell him. If I'm traveling and I'm away from home, and my wife and kids are not with me, you'll find me at the racetrack. And I'll watch from, little kids race to local dirt races to asphalt track, wherever I'm close to being at a racetrack, I'll go watch. Because I support the guys that are doing it. Because I know what it's like to be in that car at a local track, saying, man, one day I'm going to race NASCAR. One day I could do this. Mm-hmm. And you can.
Well, you
can do it.
You race with Cameron Haley, who's from my area. He races at my track quite often, and I don't think this year he's racing. At least they haven't announced it yet. And that Rick Brew guy got his ride at Thor Motorsports, so I'm not sure what's going on there. But Cameron, I asked Cameron directly today, and he hasn't answered me yet. But he's just a local kid, going through the same thing, growing up the hard way. His parents happened to have money so he could get a ride, but it's an expensive sport. What would it cost you to, you said your truck was already prepared for Daytona. What sort of money are you looking for to be able to get in that race? Because that, of all races, is a race that everybody's equal.
Well, where we got screwed up is, I don't know if you guys really follow me too much, but the middle of last year, a sponsor wrote me a bad check for $110,000.
I remember. Yes, yep. We saw that. Yep.
So that just, turned my world upside down. Okay. Then through the winter, we built some new motors, and then NASCAR come out and said, okay, we're going to run the spec motor. So that just, is like, that money's out the window too. You know what I mean? So, we're probably about 15, 20 grand from going, tire money and entrance fee money. Not a whole lot, but when you pour all your money into, hotels and building trucks, the truck I got to go down there is brand new.
Mm-hmm.
And, so, it's just, it takes a lot. It takes a lot.
Do you go down with one truck, or do you have a backup as well?
We got a backup.
Yeah, so you're actually going down there with two trucks, plus your crew. Yeah. Now, where do all your crew come from? Because you don't pay these guys full time. I imagine your team is basically you and what?
We have me and 5 guys. And then when we go down, the over-the-wall guys, we rent. We actually have a cup crew.
Oh, good.
Okay.
You can rent pit guys? I didn't know that. I wonder if I could rent one.
Well, even like, like Matt Crafton.
Yep.
All of his over-the-wall guys are all rented also.
Really? So
a lot of the bigger teams, they'll do that. And, they get like, Make Motorsports uses some of Hendrick's guys. Like when I ran the ARCA race at Bristol, or not Bristol, I ran the ARCA race in Pocono. I had Jeff Gordon's spotter, so I had some Hendricks guys, and I had some guys. So that's the norm for the trucks, especially if they're teamed up where they're running the same race as either Xfinity and trucks are there, or maybe it's the weekend where all 3 of them are there. We get a cup crew.
Well, that's good. And what does that cost you? Like, what does Eddie DeHunt cost you to rent as a spotter?
We spotters make, like, at the track, if they're moonlighting or whatever, right around $500-600.
That's not bad.
And then like for the whole crew, plus it was like $3,100 to $3,500, depending on whose guys you got.
Jeez, eh?
So it's cheaper than having somebody on the payroll, full time. They come with their own tools, they come with their own licenses, their own travel, because they're already there for their hotels from their cup team,
Right. So you don't have to pay that.
Right. It saves us a lot of money, and then you also know you got the best of the best. But the downfall is when you don't make a race, you're committed to pay them guys anyways because they're there.
You still have to pay them.
Yeah. So like when I run at the crew for Johanna, and she didn't make the race, we had to pay. We paid the crew anyways.
I bet you weren't too happy about that, were you?
Well, it's a part of the game. Like I said, again, if NASCAR would police the Cup guys coming down, we would have no problem with being in that race.
I saw a quote from you that said you like to hire women because they are easy to work with, basically.
Yeah, they are. They give you 110%. They don't have egos. They're not. I mean, when my wife raced, it was cool because I see
Your
all
wife?
the girls and the kids.
Your
Oh yeah,
wife
I
raced?
put my wife in a street stock car
Really? What?
back locally. Yeah. She ran Rockford and she ran Grundy up here in Illinois.
Oh,
And
wow.
I sponsored. I always sponsored girls, believe it or not. Another girl named Cheryl Hiring. I sponsored her for a few years when I had my business, and then last year she actually missed a championship out here at our local track by I think 10 points.
Oh, wow.
And we just a pleasure to be around. They're fan friendly. Well, and I shouldn't say that all of them, because I will say most of them are fan friendly.
There you go.
Gee, reading between the lines, I wonder what he means there.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, we'll just leave it like that. But I mean,
Yep.
It's when I go right back to what I said earlier is the kids are the ones that are making our sport to grow. The kids are looking up at people when you don't want to get off your butt and leave the hall or put your smartphone down to go take a picture with a kid. I got a problem with it.
Oh, no doubt.
I don't need you around me. You're not. To me, I'm very humble. I'm very thankful for I get the opportunity to do things. And I look at people that I pay to come race for me, and you're not going to interact with a kid or a fan, then I got a problem.
You do have to fear for our sport in another 10 to 15 years because this is eating away at the people in the stands. If I go to Pocono, and I can tell you, Mike, years ago, even before 2005, I could take my daughter. She's young. I would take her one time, I guess 1999, Dale Sr. in New Hampshire came over, sat down at our breakfast table up there, signed every kid's thing. We were in a hotel about, 25 minutes from the track. And you would not find that among many of the drivers today. I've seen it with Kyle Larson. I saw it at Pocono with Kyle Larson. He impressed me there. It's not, you just don't really see it too much anymore.
You got to give credit where credit's due. The only driver that I could honestly say in the Cup Series, and I don't, I'm not there 24/7, so I don't want to pick on somebody and say something that, because there might be more that are like that. But what I actually seen with my own eyes is Brad Keselowski's like that. Brad Keselowski stops what he's doing. He takes the time for the fans. I've seen the guy run across the track or pit road and sign an autograph. And then I've also seen other drivers that, the fans got to be behind the pit box, and they'll walk down the center of pit road so they don't have to be bothered with them.
Yeah.
But, the way I look at it, for me, my own eyes, how I feel, if I'm going to put myself in that spotlight and I'm asking somebody to support me racing or support my sponsor that I have on my car, then that's my duty. It's my job to interact with the fans. And, me personally, I love doing it anyway, so I don't care. But there's a lot of guys that, they're standoffish. You're right. The first time I met Rich Ortetti, he was sitting there. It was actually Kyle had his broken arm when he was driving the Mellow Yellow car. Hey, man, grab a seat. You didn't want a Mellow Yellow? And I said, no, you got a Diet Coke. He was no Mellow Yellow. They sponsored the car. And we laughed, and I sat there and talked to the guy for an hour. And then I seen him like 3 races later, and he called me by my first name.
Oh,
hey,
wow.
Mike, come on over. I need your help. Give me a hand pushing this.
Jeez.
It was back in the day, but that's gone. Nowadays that's gone. These guys get out of their car, they run into their haulers, they run right back to their bus. It's like, what's wrong with you?
I think that's what we need to get back to for sure. I met Dale Jarrett the same way. He was just sitting in a casino. I stopped. He invited me to sit down. We just yabbered away. It was great. I'm a Dale Jarrett fan forever. I already was.
Yep.
I read a great story about you. A lot of people don't know much about you. So, I want to just step back a little bit and look at 2012 when you went into the ARCA race at Talladega. And, of course, you had that horrible rollover crash, which, tell us about that in a minute. But what I want to hear about is the fan after the race. This young guy, I'm not quite sure of the details of this. Somehow he got burned at another incident at the track. Can you talk a bit about that?
Well, after they got me out of the car and I was in, I'll call it seven heaven. My head was humming and swerving. I didn't know exactly where I was at or what end was up or down. They pulled me in the hospital and checked me and, just going through my vitals, making sure I'm okay. And I could hear this little boy crying. And, he wasn't crying for his mom. He wasn't crying for anybody in particular, but that's all he kept saying. But I want to meet a real race car driver. I want to meet a real race car driver. And so it was like 45 minutes later, and they checked me all out. Okay, I'm cleared to go. And, my guys brought me my street clothes, and the nurse and doctor walked in and say, you wouldn't want to do us a favor, would you? I go, yeah. I go, I hear. And they go, wait. I think he was 2 years old, and he fell into a camping fire. And he goes, man, could you go in there and just say hi to him? I said, yeah. So here I am, sweating to death, and, because it's hot in them things. It was hot there here in Talladega, So I put on my driving suit, put it all back on, all my equipment back on, and I walk in. And I just sat down and talked to him, and then went back to the garage and grabbed some shirts and stickers and hats, and went back and gave him some stuff. And it was really cool for me last year. His mom and dad were at Talladega. That's the race they usually go to. And I got to meet him as he got older and took some pictures with him. I think he's 8 now. No, 12.
Wow. Oh, good.
Yeah, he's 7 now.
And what a lot of people don't know is you flipped your car 6 times. Your bell was rung, yet you still took, you still took the time.
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, wow, great story.
That's what it's about, and that's where people are losing sight of. It's not Mike Affarano, the race car driver. It's Mike Affarano that kids look up to. I got a fan for life. This kid writes me all the time, and I write him back. And I get a lot of people on Facebook. A lot of people will like my page, and then they get upset. They're like, "Is this you we're talking to?" Yeah, and it's that's like, how can I prove it's me? But I tell them, I'm like, it's me. I don't, have people talk for me if and then I've had people, hey, could you call me? And I'll call the guy. Yeah, what's going on? Hey, how do I do this, or how do I need to go about getting this? I told myself, I'm accessible. Look me up on Facebook, like me, like my racing page, and you got a question, shoot it to me, and if I'm not at a track or something, I'll get right back to you. Usually that night or whatever, or if I'm online, I'll write them right then and there, and so a lot of the fans, they like it, and this boy just stayed with me, and I got to, it was really cool. Like I said, they came out last year when we were at Talladega, and I invited them down to the pits, and they took some pictures of me and him by the truck, and, but it's an everlasting memory. He'll always remember it.
That's what it's all about.
And then when he got home, he had an older brother at the time, and his dad wrote me, he goes, I hate to ask you because you were so nice, but his older brother was sort of jealous because I gave this, his son shirts and hats and everything. I'm like, send me a size. I don't care. So I sent his older brother some shirts and hats and stuff. I'm like, so if they come to the track and they're all decked out in my gear, it makes me feel good.
Of course.
Where the other guys, it's like, I've seen this with my own eyes, and I ain't going to tell you who, but I've seen a 6-year-old boy walk up to a cup-level driver, okay, and ask him to sign his shirt, and seen the driver pull back the tag on the back of his shirt and say, it's not one of mine, sorry.
Oh, my
And
God.
I looked at the guy, and I looked at the guy, and I'm like, maybe mom and dad don't have that kind of money to, fork out $40,000 or $40 for your jersey. I go, maybe this is a Walmart shirt, but that's all the kid could afford.
Yeah.
I'm like, he's supporting you. You're his favorite driver. What the hell's wrong with you? Go sign a kid's shirt.
Yeah.
And that's where they're losing it. That's where NASCAR can't police because, okay, they can make them do the mandatory, autograph session, but the drivers are not accessible to the fans.
No.
You need to be able to walk out and say, okay, Jeff Gordon's my hero, and be able to look at him, walk with him, take a picture with him, have him sign it. It don't matter if it's a Chase Authentic or if it's a Walmart shirt or if it says Jeff Gordon on it and the guy's supporting you, sign the damn shirt. It ain't costing you nothing. And you just made somebody's day.
Yeah.
That's where they're losing sight.
Yep. That's so very true. I mean, there was a lot of publicity last year when Jeff Gordon walked by a 6-year-old boy, and he didn't sign his shirt, not because he wasn't wearing the right shirt, but just because he was in a hurry to go somewhere, and that didn't go over well. I mean, it's all about they're always saying you are of an age of, you're the same age as my brother, so you're just barely younger than me, but you're of a certain age where manners were a whole lot different. We're trying to get these young guys interested in the sport, young people. Right now, it's all 50-year-olds.
Yes.
We're the only ones that can afford to go to the track. I mean, my Daytona tickets alone were $1,000. And, okay, you translate that into Canadian money right now, and my dollar's sitting at 70 cents. Guess what that works out to? That was $1,700. That meant that I could not do anything else, and that's just for the tickets, right? Never mind the flight and the hotel and everything else.
And that's the thing, and the sad part for me is when you go there and you see the stands are empty. Well, there's a reason the stands are empty. Back in the day, they would give drivers, and I don't know how many tickets, but they would give us so many tickets to give away to either our sponsors or our fans that, that you knew. I mean, everybody has a family member. Everybody has a fan that really follows them that's down on their luck or don't have the means to get to a race. Why not, put somebody in the stand for free? Hey, the seat's going to be empty anyways. Maybe you can sell that guy a hot dog. Maybe you can sell him a soda. Maybe you can sell him a jersey or a program where you're making money instead of leaving that seat just sit there empty. And maybe you just converted a guy for life a fan.
Exactly. Well, and now some of the tracks have taken to coloring their seats so it looks like it's full, because once in a while when that camera pans, you see the empty seats. I mean, I've been at most of the racetracks over the years, and only one that I can recall being sold out on a regular basis is Vegas, because it's out here. We haven't got much out here. There's the hotels don't kill you with overinflated prices, so people can afford to go to that race, and it's very fan friendly there. But wow, it's tough.
Outdoors the same way. Outdoors mostly standing room or sitting on the hill. It's packed.
That's my bucket list. I got to go there one of these days. I really want to.
It's something that Tony Stewart is such a class act as far as a promoter, where he makes sure everything. I mean, NASCAR really messed with me bad when I went there. It was my first time going there. That was my first NASCAR race I tried to make. And one of my guys, we didn't know any better. We don't know NASCAR rules. We don't know how they do things. So one of my guys made him mad. And they decided that they didn't like my seat. They didn't like this. They didn't like that. So they had us change everything. And then they come over and they say, hey, listen, you don't make a lap of practice, you can't qualify. And we're busting, butt trying to get the thing ready. And Tony Stewart walks over and goes, this is my track. He goes, what they're doing is wrong. And mysteriously enough, the track had to be under a red flag while they went out there and fixed something. And he drove by and said, are you almost done? I said, yeah, I'm done now. He goes, did they check it? Yeah. All right, man, we're good. Because he knew what they were doing was BS. And I mean, I was never a Tony Stewart fan, okay, but I got a lot of respect for him.
Yeah.
He's fan-friendly. He treats the people right. And he treats the drivers right. He goes, man, if you go home, you go home because you had a lack of horsepower, lack of talent. He goes, I'm not having you go home because of lack of BS.
Yeah. And
we made the race. I mean, then my phone was blowing up. Man, congratulations. Do you not realize that's the hardest race it is to make? And I didn't realize it. I just, I thought I got lucky, But, next, it's like, wow, I sit back and I'm like, yeah, I mean, that was something. That's one that, like you said, is on my bucket list.
Yep.
That was something that probably one of my most memorable deals out of my racing career.
Oh, that's cool. That is cool, especially today of all days after all that video. I don't know if you've been online today, but oh my God.
Yeah.
Yeah, you gotta love them.
I do.
You got a lot of heart.
You know what?
You got a lot of heart.
I got one thing to say about this is that we're talking about a lot about drivers not being accessible and not being out there and being too vanilla. There was nothing vanilla about that. I mean, he said, I'm tired of you giving me the finger, you drunken bleep, 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 and I'm going to go talk to you. He went up a few notches in my esteem, even though my practical side said, "Oh, Tony, that was really stupid." Because it shouldn't be that way.
He didn't do anything, though. You have to.
He's under a microscope right now because of the other incident.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I'm going to touch base a little bit on that. And again, I don't know Tony Stewart. I don't know the other people involved. Okay, but I could tell you as a driver, we're sick to our stomach when we hit a pit crew guy that's coming over the wall carrying a tire. We're sick to our stomach if we hit the guy carrying a jack. The last thing that man ever wanted to do was hurt another driver.
Yeah.
Okay? But that being said, I don't know if you guys know this or not. I actually also lost a child. He was 16 years old in 2005. He was an only child. Okay?
Yeah, we do
so
know that.
the other party side, I get it. They don't have it, that's the first Christmas without him. It's his birthday's here, and he's not there. It's Mother's Day or Father's Day, and their son or their sibling's not there to interact with their parent. It's Christmas, and they're not celebrating Christmas because they're wondering why the hell this happened to them. Okay? I've been down that road. Lawyers are not the answers.
No.
The answer is they need to get them two parties in the same room where the two parties could, I hate to say it this way, could cry together and say, listen, the last thing I never wanted to do is hurt your son. And then maybe the other party understand that the other family is going through a lot because their son wasn't there for Christmas or their son wasn't there for their birthday. And maybe if they could talk about that, which each other is going through, then the healing process could begin. Lawyers and suing them and money has nothing to do with it. All the money in the world is not going to bring my son back, and I would give my own life to bring my son back. So, that's sort of itchy when, it sort of pisses me off, to be honest with you, when I see somebody say something about Tony about that, or the family say something about this because of that. It's like, you both want the same thing, and they don't realize the only way they're going to get that inner peace is they got to talk to each other.
Yeah. I don't think anybody that hasn't lost a child could possibly understand what that family went through. Right or wrong, it doesn't matter. But losing a child is the most devastating thing a parent can go through, and you know that firsthand. How did you lose your son? If you can talk about that.
Yeah, I really don't want to get into it, to be honest with you.
Okay, fair enough. We'll just move on.
No, that's fine.
But
I mean,
it's true though.
It's absolutely the truth. I mean, it's devastating.
It is, and you now have two twins, don't you?
Yep, and and I'll tell you one thing: as you're growing up and you're trying to make it in the world, and you think work is all important, and I was one of them guys that I own my own business, and I've worked 90, 100 hours a week, and tried to go racing or try to do this, and then I'm gone 3-4 days on top of that. My twins come around, and I don't care where I'm at. I'm home for their birthday. If that means I got to miss a race, guess what? I'm missing a race because that's not important. What's important is your family.
It is.
And a lot of people overlook that, and sometimes you got to get kicked in the head to realize it. Well, I got kicked in the head, and I realize it. So, yeah, I got twin boys, and they're 8 years old, and I got them running quarter midgets, and I got them on dirt bikes, and that's why I'm trying to stay. I give Richard Childress a lot of credit. I know Ty and Austin get a lot of grief because, your grandpa was rich and your grandpa did this. You know something? If my grandpa was rich, he'd done the same thing for me. But at the end of the day, them boys are still the guys that are driving them cars. Mm-hmm. They're the ones that are putting their life on the line. They're the ones that are racing them. So it's not that it's just money got them there. They got to have talent. So yes. I'm trying to do the same thing with my boys. I got them racing this and racing that and racing each other. And, at this age, it's not about being on the track, winning anything. It's just about making laps, learning to feel at a car, learning to feel at the tires. And, hopefully, I tell my wife this all the time. I hope they don't get older and say, okay, that was fun, but I don't want to do this. It'll kill me.
Is your wife on board with the boys racing?
Well, it was funny because my other son, I think a mother always has an intuition. I think my wife always knew somewhere down the line something was going to happen with my other son because he wasn't allowed to have a dirt bike. He wasn't allowed to have, a go-kart. He wasn't allowed to go to racetrack with me. She didn't even want him to know that I raced. She didn't want him to play football because I think she just knew all along. And these kids, she goes, I'm fine with it. So these kids are on dirt bikes. I've had them driving since they were 2. And, they've been on dirt bikes and they got quarter midgets. And, I hate to say it, but I let them drive my streetcar around my neighborhood. Me and there, I got a old Chevelle and we go putting around with it.
That's just between us.
It's just different. I asked her, I said, are you sure? And she's like, yeah. I go, dirt bikes are dangerous, and because, the last thing, especially after you lost one, you don't ever want it to happen again, obviously. And it's like, she goes, no, she goes, I don't have that same feeling. She goes, it's fine. So, yeah, I think they have that, it's, I don't know how to explain it, but these guys she's okay with it and they love it as of right now. And if they want to do it, the door will be open for them to, come up and do it, Where me, I got to pave the way and make it happen. And, they'll have it a little bit easier.
Do they like going to the track with you?
They have never been yet.
Really?
Here's a funny story. When I crashed at Talladega, they were supposed to be there. And I have one boy that has real bad asthma. He actually had an asthma attack, and my wife said she was coming from Tennessee, and she goes, I'm just going to turn around and take him home because, so I have the wreck. She's not even there. She's driving home, and everybody's blowing up her phone. Is he okay? Is he dead? What's going on? We're trying to call him. He's not answering. I'm like in the hospital, in the in-care center, and she didn't know. She called me up, and she said, you all right? She goes, everybody's calling me. I said, yeah, I wrecked, but I'm fine. She never seen it. So then she gets home, and she sees it. She calls me, and she goes, where you at? I go, hotel. So I just got back and did something to eat, and, I was telling her about, Brandon was the boy I met in the hospital. I was telling her about that, and she's like, you're never racing again, right? And I'm like, well, I'm testing tomorrow at Chicagoland, so let me know how that works out for you. And the next day I was at Chicagoland testing, and I was like, that's what I do. I said, I feel safe in them. We know we're not invincible, but when you lose that securedness where you don't feel safe or you think something's going to happen, then it's time to quit.
We'll have to
and I feel safe in them, and I still love speed. So, God willing, as long as I can do it, I'm going to do it.
We talked. We've talked a few times about having wives of drivers on the show, just to have a whole show of just wives, because I'm a wife, so I know how that would feel, and it would be really interesting to me to hear their side of that. She's lucky that she didn't see that live. Her heart probably would have dropped out of her gut. Ned Jarrett told us a few stories about how his wife saw his various wrecks, and it was just, I can only imagine what that would feel like on the wife's side.
I like it's on my Facebook page. I got different pictures of the car in various, states of flipping and wrecking and all kinds of stuff. And she can't look at it. Or like if somebody put it on YouTube, and I'll watch it once in a while.
Yep.
And she's like, I don't even want to see it.
I watched it.
She goes, there's something wrong with you. And I'm like, to me, it's just part of what we do.
It is.
And, I tell her all the time, I'm like, drivers, we're not smart. We're dummies. I go, we honestly don't think we're going to get hurt. It's never going to happen to us,
Nope.
And then when it does happen, you just get out and thank God and that you're able to walk away,
Yep.
Yep.
I put her. Good.
She's a huge support too. I think that's how we first heard about you, was actually
through his wife.
Through your wife.
Really?
In our Facebook group. Absolutely.
Yep, she talks about you all the time in there, and
she does.
And we have race threads where in that race that you were in, she was talking, to everybody, talking about how you were going to be in that race at Eldora and showing us pictures of the car or the truck, and all kinds of stuff. She's very interactive with the fans
oh, see,
yeah,
so
she is.
she's being two-faced. She tells me it sucks and she don't want nothing to do with it and I'm a dummy, and then she goes online and talks to the fans. I see how she is. I'm gonna get her.
She's really a lot of fun. She's, I think it's kind of neat.
They said you're a lot of fun. You interact with the fans on the. I put her in a car, like I told you, at Sycamore and the Grundy, and it was funny because she hit the wall, and it was nothing. I mean, it was like the fender wasn't even bent. She parks the car and she goes, "I'm done." I go, "What do you mean you're done?" She goes, "I quit." What do you mean you quit? I go, "It's not an option." She's like, "What, are you trying to kill me?" She goes, and she never got back to the car again. I go, you didn't even. That was like a teaser. That was nothing, But yeah, she goes, and then, but it showed her, because a lot of people, even in the grandstands, "Oh, why didn't you run better? Why didn't you do this? Oh, this is so easy. That's all you got to do." And it's so much to do, People don't have a clue unless you've done it, what it really takes. Yep. And that was my idea of putting her in the car.
Yep. One
of my buddies won a championship with a car, and I went down to the pits and I bought the car right then and there. I was like, "You're moving up?" He goes, "Yeah, I'm moving up because I'm buying your car." He goes, "How do you want it?" I go, "Just the way it's here. I want the motor. I want just turnkey car." And I said, "You just got a championship car." I said, "So you should run good." And she did really well. I mean, she's had some, top 7 finish, top 5. And, first couple times she was out. And like I said, she tagged the wall and she goes, "I'm done." She goes, but now she understands what it takes. She knows what it's like.
And she's even more scared.
Yeah, oh yeah, absolutely. So she tells me, she's like, "I can't believe you do it. You're going 200 miles an hour and you got people around you an inch, don't you?" I ain't worried about them. No. They're all like me. They're all professionals. They know what they're doing.
And I kind of laugh at Delina Harvick because she's a racing woman. She comes from, her dad is a racing guy, and she's been around racing all her life. And she jokes a lot about that all the time with their son Keelan. Of course, Kevin's a good driver, so it's amusing to see the woman's side of this. And I've raced myself, so I know what you're talking about. It's funny as hell.
Yep. Yeah, I mean it's something. I mean I hope God willing I race until I want to be like James Hilton. I hate to say it, or all them other guys that. Race until Morgan Shepherd. Race until you can't do it no more.
Yep.
There you go. And Morgan's going to be there, right? I think he plans on being at Daytona this year.
He does.
Yeah.
Yep.
I mean, I would like, and this is, another, like you said, I would like to see the Cup teams adopt a smaller team. So let's just say RCR, and it's random. Okay, maybe they do it the same way they draw for qualifying at the beginning of the year. I mean, Chevy to Chevy, Ford to Ford kind of a thing, because I know the factory stuff would come into play. But say like RCR says, okay, they're teamed up with Affarano Motorsports. We don't get their motors, we get their help. And what I mean by that is they go test at Chicagoland. They call up and say, "We're testing at Chicagoland Friday and Saturday. If you want to come, you get 2 hours of the track time. And it don't cost you nothing but your tires."
Yeah, that's a good idea.
It takes a small team like me that instead of having to come off with $20,000 a test, we can go test, and it costs us a couple grand for the test. Because they're going to rent the track anyways to do what they're going to do. They're going to take an hour off for lunch. Even if they say, okay, hey, during our lunchtime, you get the track, and we're knocking off at 3, but you could have it until 4. I mean, just so we can go there and then offset that. Or maybe pick up a phone call and say, "Hey, this and this and this," or "I'm having a problem with this." I mean, that would help the small teams, the independent guys, get a foot up, or have it maybe a major sponsor like Pepsi-Cola, let's just say, that sponsored Jeff Gordon. Okay, hey, you give Jeff Gordon your $30 million or whatever the hell you got to give him, but we're going to put Pepsi-Cola on the truck, and maybe Jeff Gordon gives us, 20 grand. So the sponsor's getting double the exposure from 2 different series, and it's a fraction of the cost. And the guys that are trying to come up, they're getting a hand up instead of a foot down. You know what I mean?
That's a very interesting idea.
I mean, look at Morgan Shepherd. I mean, I actually was pitted next to him in Richmond, and people were like, and I'd tell my guys, man, give him a hand, help him out, because he's short help, with help too. And I helped the guy out, this and that. And then one of my guys turned around and looked at me and said, "You know who he is?" I go, "Yeah, man, that's a legend. You should have a lot of respect for that man."
Exactly.
I go, he paid his dues 100 times over, and I mean, I think he should be treated better than what he's being treated. I mean, a sponsor should look at that guy, and they could be on a good guy's car that's got a lot of name behind them, a lot of name rec, and he's good with the fans. I mean, the fans love him. I mean, I don't get it. For that guy to have problems finding a sponsor, he's not asking for millions of dollars. Just enough to buy tires and maybe an entrance fee. And, I mean, they can get so much bang for their buck in the lower series with an independent guy than they do. I honestly think if a cup sponsor, and I ain't going to name no teams, if one of them sponsors would actually go in the pits and see where the driver of the team didn't know he was there, and just watch how they treated their fans on that car, they would come down to a smaller team and sponsor a smaller team. Somebody like me that goes out and hangs around in the stands with the fans. When I'm not racing, I'm in the stands with the fans. I go to local tracks, I'm in the stands with the fans. Mm-hmm. I sign autographs, I hand out hero cards. I just, I interact with them. I do, like telephone interviews. I do. I mean, and it's just I want to reach out to people and say, hey, man, I'm here. If you're trying to find a way and you're trying to get up there. I mean, I've had guys ask me, do you rent trucks out? Yeah, we rent trucks out. You're a funded driver. You want to do a one-off, or you want to try it. It's not cheap, but man, this is how much it costs. And I'll put you in touch with Bodine to see if you can get cleared, and I walk them through it. There's a lot of guys that I've walked through the process that went and drove for somebody else. Make Motorsports, Mark, he walked me through the process, and and I told him, I said, man, I don't want you to waste your time. I go, but I'm going to do my own truck. I'm not going to drive your truck. I'm going to buy my own, build my own. And he's like, no, man. He goes, but he's a racer. He actually helped me sit down. He's actually the guy that took me to go meet Bodine and got me cleared. So there is a handful of us that are fan-related or fan-friendly that'll do things for people a lot more than the guys that are up on top looking at everything, thinking they're full of themselves that somebody owes them something.
Right. And it's actually doing something for the sport, too. Somehow that connection is missing, and it must not be that important to the bigwigs in the front office there, I
think that's TV dollars talking there. I mean, when I was at Charlotte, I went to the dirt race, and they had all the sprint car guys there, and I got to meet Steve Kinzer, who I always wanted to meet. I think he's just an amazing guy. And I just walked right up to him and met him. It was the coolest thing. And I happened to be walking through the parking lot, and I see a hauler there with White Rock, BC. BC, British Columbia, where I live. Mm-hmm. And I'm going through this line, and I see this guy, and I said, "Are you the guy from White Rock?" He goes, "Yeah, as a matter of fact." That's bizarre that you would know that. And I said, "Well, I'm from Verdon. We're like 4 hours away from each other, Canadians down in the States." And we got to talking, and he introduced me to Donnie Schatz and all the Sammy Swindell and, all those sort of guys. And I had a great time meeting those guys, and he gave me a sort of a in there. But they were already there, exposed to the fans, talking with them, much like what you say in the drag racing world. And you know what? I think fans are really missing that connection with the drivers.
Yeah, younger fans don't even know about it, Honest to goodness, they don't remember any of that. No. Unless they go to NHRA stuff like my daughter does.
When I was a little kid, I shouldn't say kid, but younger, probably in my 10, 12, 13-year-olds, if you watched the sprint cars, you would know. I mean, I walked right up to Rich Vogler. And, Vogler was winning everything in the day. And, man, literally just walked up to his camper, knocked on the door, and the guy opened the door and goes, "Oh, yeah, yes, man, I'm a big fan of you. I mean, I like your driving style. You're winning or wrecking, just the way it is."
Yeah.
And he goes, "Man, come on in." They had a Coke with me and sat outside and just talked and put me in his car. And it's like, you guys are losing all of this, but that's what I wanted the way I was growing up. The drivers would, man, here, hop in the car. Here, just don't start it. You can move the gear shift. You can just jerk the steering wheel. I don't care. Make your engine sounds, do whatever you want. And that's how I do the kids. You want to get in the car? Yeah. You want to take a picture? Sure, go ahead. What does it cost you? It don't cost you nothing.
And it's not just it's not just kids. It's adults too that love that.
Well, here's a funny story, and I'm going to throw Jeff Gordon under the bus. Jeff Gordon. I
might hang up on you.
Nope. It's a good story.
Okay.
But it just tells you how they are.
Yes.
Jeff Gordon is in his car for qualifying, and how they come in for the first run, and he's sitting there with his cool down machine hooked up. My guy one of my pit guys is a huge Jeff Gordon fan. So we're on the wall. We got all of our stuff out there because we're qualifying right after they do. And my guy walks over the wall, sticks his head in Jeff Gordon's window, and says, "Hey, Jeff, I'm a huge fan. Could you just sign my pit pass?" And the guy knows he's from a team. He's got, his hot pass. He's got his credentials with him. He says, "Could you just sign that?" And Jeff looked at him and goes, "I ain't got time for that."
Oh, bad.
There's a guy sitting there that's obviously another crew member, and you don't have time for that guy. You don't have time for nobody. Yeah. Like I said, cameras weren't on, whatever. And, I looked at it and walked over to the car and said something that I probably shouldn't have said and walked away. and it's like, but that's what's wrong with the sport.
It's okay.
Yeah.
I get that, and I totally agree with you.
This is some of the things that I would do if I was in control of NASCAR. I would say, okay, trucks are qualifying, let's say, from 10 o'clock until 11 o'clock. You get the first hour on the track. And then cup cars are, or 11:30, say to 12. Yeah. Well, between the truck qualifying, the cup guys have got to be in the stands interacting with the fans. While the trucks are on the track qualifying, you need to be in the grandstands interacting with the fans. Then we'll have a tram bring you back down into the pits. And then when the cup guys are on the track, all the truck guys should be in the pit in the stands interacting with the fans, taking pictures, signing autograph, whatever it is they do. You got to make it where the fans are interacting with you.
Wow.
Because there's a lot, like I said, there's a lot of people that don't have that huge money to get hot passes to go into the garage area. And even when they do get in the garage area, some guys get shunned anyways. They, maybe 1 out of 10 drivers they ask will actually stop if it's not an inconvenience. Or maybe if you get them walking down and you can get on the side of them, or you got them on. Sort of, I hate to say it that way, like you cornered them like a rat, But that's, what about the other 100,000 fans that are sitting there that would love an autograph or would love to take a picture with their hero or their whoever, their idol or whatever. I get so many people reach out to me because they know I'm accessible. Hey, man, could you get me Jeff Gordon's autograph? Hey, could you get me Dale Jr.'s this? Could you get me Kyle Busch's this? Because, Kyle Busch, KBM does a lot of stuff for me. They do my chassis, some of my chassis work. They build my shocks. So, I got a good relationship there. And I'm like, it's hard for me, even for me that spends money there to, it's like, it's almost like you feel funny. It's like it's a golden rule. Don't ask. And I think that's wrong. If NASCAR really wants to truly start putting people back in the stands, then they got to be people friendly.
Absolutely. And if just what you described, if they did that, geez, can you imagine how many people would show up for practice?
Oh, yeah.
It would be totally incredible, but that's how it used to be.
Yes.
Well, what they're thinking is okay, we're going to put Kyle Busch in the truck, and Kyle's going to draw all these people. And, like I said, Mike don't have a filter, so I think it was in Kansas I stood up and explained to him how stupid that was. And Kyle was sitting right behind me, and they're like, well, I said, man, listen. I go, no offense to Kyle Busch. The guy's a phenomenal talent. Everybody knows that. And they're like, yeah. I go, but as many people like him, there's that many that hate him. I go, there's a lot of fans that don't like Kyle Busch. There's a lot of people that don't like Mike Affarano. You can't please them all, right? So to think that you're going to bring one guy down into a series and he's going to pack the house because Kyle Busch is driving with us, that's sort of funny. I find it humorous. It's like, you got to be kidding, right? If you want to put a guy, one singular guy, into a truck, and you're going to pack the house, and they tell them that you're going to have Richard Petty drive with us on a weekend. Everybody's going to come see.
It doesn't work.
No,
you just look at the
it don't work.
Look at the standings.
Yeah.
And I always say to people when they go to races, why aren't you going to the Xfinity race or the truck race? Well, whatever, we're doing other stuff. It's like, that's the best racing out there, guys. Go. But they go for the big show, and there's no logical reason that they don't go. And I don't get that. I love the trucks are my number one thing to watch. I love them the best. And most of our group does.
Yep.
And if you look at the Cup side of it, though, they're losing fans left and right also.
They are.
And it all falls back. I mean, even the truck series, I mean, there's maybe a handful of drivers there that will go out of their way to talk to them. I mean, like I said, I'm not mentioning names, but I will tell you some of these people have worked for me. You could read between the lines. And when they won't go out and interact with a fan, or they'll walk down the center of pit road so they don't have to talk to a fan. I mean, and they're all like that. It's like, you guys are missing it. How can I expect a fan? Let's just say. I mean, here's the difference. When I go to a racetrack, I usually bring 100, 150 hats with me. Okay. And as I'm walking out, I throw them out into the stands, or I'll throw them over the fence, or I'll hand them out to people. Okay. I'm not sitting there selling my hats for $25 or $30. And if I was, you best believe I'd be there where the person wanted it autographed. They can get it autographed.
Right.
These people are asking people to buy a hat for $29 or buy a shirt for $40, and then they won't even go out there to interact with the people or even sign a shirt or sign anything. I mean, even on my Facebook page right before Christmas, we did some stuff. Hey, like the page, if you watch it, I gave away 100 autographed hero cards in 1 week. I gave away an autographed fender. I gave an autographed hood away. I gave an autographed nose piece away. I gave away an autographed helmet. Actually, the helmet that I flipped at Talladega, I actually autographed that and gave that away.
Oh my goodness!
Seriously,
I
we missed that one.
Shoot!
Yeah, I mean, and I think it's funny when you see these drivers, or even a better one. I think it's funny when a sponsor look at somebody and say, well, you're too old, or you're too this, or you don't run up to the front. Well, listen, if I had sponsorship money, I could run up in the front. And you know something? There's a million products on a shelf that old people take. One-a-day vitamins or Viagra or whatever. I mean, give me a break. You think Dale Jr. needs Viagra? It's like, or Cialis. It's like, come on, why don't you fit the product with the person? Johanna Long drove for me. Why not Maybelline makeup, or why not, tampons or whatever? You know what I'm
Martin
saying?
and Cialis was a good mix.
Yeah, I mean, that was a good fit, But I look, I mean, it's like the sponsorships, it's like they don't get it.
No.
They get more money for the bang of their buck if they would choose wisely. I mean, and everybody knows, like, you've been around the sport a long time. You know it's a money-driven sport. If you want to run up to the front, it takes money.
It is,
and it takes a lot of money just to even get to the truck, like you said.
Yeah.
Do you drive speaking of which, I had a question. Do you drive your equipment yourself to the truck?
Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. We have a driver, and if it's a far haul, we usually will all follow in a dually, and we'll have a driver drive, and then we'll alternate. So yeah, there's sometimes I'll be behind the wheel of it. I mean, I think I flew to one race, and it's only because I was I was sick. I flew to Texas, the last Texas race. And other than that, I'm with the hauler, with the trucks, with the guys.
Oh, that's good.
I try not to. How could I put this? I'm no different than anybody else, so I won't ask somebody else to do something that I won't do. So there's nothing wrong with me driving in the truck, across country. If I ask them to do it, then why can't I do it?
That's always been my theory in life as a boss. I'm not going to ask you to do something that I personally wouldn't do myself. So That's a good
Yeah.
attitude.
So, I mean, it goes back to the sponsor thing. We've had some sponsors come up and talk to us. I mean, I'm actually talking to Jake Griffin. I'm trying to put him in, to swing a deal with him to put him in my truck for some races. The kid's a huge talent. He's only 15 years old. I mean, I'd love to be able to work with him because I think he could really highlight our equipment, show people what we have.
The TV guys give a lot of attention to young guys in that series.
Yep.
They really do, which I totally give them credit for. When Rick Allen was doing it, and now it's different. But man, they'd really focus on those young guys and give them lots of attention and let them talk. And I mean, look at what's that guy with all the pimples? The young guy, Marine
Jones.
No, not Eric.
Eric Jones?
No, not Eric Jones. The other one. Oh God, his name just escapes me at the moment. He's got lots of. I feel for him because I looked just like that when I was 15. What is his name? Oh my God. Anyway, when he was in the truck series, they were just giving him Cole Custer. That's it.
Okay. Yeah.
The guy, didn't have a whole lot of TV experience or anything. He was kind of a quiet guy, and we'll talk about Eric Jones in a second. But I kind of like the fact that they gave him some attention. The guy has a lot of talent, that's evident, and they just got try and get him used to the media. I mean, that alone is tough.
I think what you'll understand is I tell people this all the time. I got two things that go for me. Maybe are good, maybe are bad. One is your age. When you get older, you don't care. It's
you don't have to tell us that.
Nope.
It's like,
your
you don't
filter
care.
just got put on the back burner.
You know what I'm saying? It's like, it is what it is. And then the other side of me is, I tell people this all the time, losing my son, I lived the worst day of my life already. So no matter what happens to me in life, ain't going to be as bad as what I've already been through.
Yeah.
So it sort of makes life easy when you're down and you're out or you're depressed or, something's not going your way. You sit there and say, something, I got a roof over my head, I got food in my belly. How bad is it? I've already lived that bad day,
Exactly.
Yeah.
So it's, I look at people that get all wound up over nothing. I'm like, tomorrow's another day. Just leave it be.
Yeah, that's the over 50 attitude.
Yeah. I mean,
exactly.
And that's why I said, I know, NASCAR don't like a lot of that. I mean, to me, I'm not on a power trip. I'm not, like these guys are. I mean, I say it the way it is. I mean, I think Jeff Gordon still had a lot more years of racing in him. I mean, I don't know this to be true because I'm not Jeff Gordon, but I think it was, not his decision to quit. Let's just put it that way.
Oh, I think it was. I think he wanted to spend time with his kids. That's clearly evident to me. And I'm a huge Jeff Gordon fan. I mean, I follow him avidly. Maybe stalking is a yeah. No. I don't stalk him, but I think he got smart and said, "You know what? This is time for me to enjoy my life. I've got more money than I know what to do with. I got a beautiful wife. I got 2 kids that I want to see grow up." I think it was his choice. You can't tell me that, Mike, because I totally disagree with that. In the last 2 years of his racing, I mean, he's made the chase in the top 4 both times. So,
I think he's got a lot more racing in him. I really do. I mean, I'll bet you that he's in a car a few times. I mean, maybe a sprint car, maybe an Indy car, but I guarantee he's going to do some racing. He's not done yet.
I suspect maybe an Indy car. Yep. I'm with you on that one. I do suspect that. I think he'll do this little 6 months or whatever it is, half the year or a third of the year in the Fox booth and realize he hates that.
You think
Yeah.
so?
Yeah.
Oh, I do. I mean, Jesus.
I know. He's not that great in it. We don't
he's
really.
He's there with DW yabbering.
I know. Oh my God, that's going to be awful.
Yeah.
I just think, once you're a racer, it's for me, it's easy not to go to a racetrack, okay? Because I know if I go to a race, because if I go, I'm like, I mean, even locally, if I go to a local track, I'm tempted because, a lot of people know me and they're like, hey, why don't you drive my car tonight? Or hey, why don't you, and it's like, So for me, if I don't go at all, it's easier. if I go, it's like, so what I'm saying is,
Yeah.
I think it's going to be hard for him to
it.
be at the track and be an announcer and talk about things.
And watch those guys.
Yeah, you know, and for him, it's going to be like, man, I can get in this car and I can just fly,
I want
you know?
to be there, yeah. Well,
Yeah,
he did say he wanted to retire 5 years earlier, and Hendrick wouldn't let him.
Yeah.
No, I don't believe that. Do you really?
No, I don't. I believe it was totally his choice. And Mike, I agree with you. I know racers. I mean, I've been around them my whole life. They never stop wanting to race. If you're a racer, you live and breathe for being behind that wheel. That it's a bottom line. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. That's the way it is. So yes, I do agree with part of that.
Yeah.
Well,
I mean,
Morgan Shepherd. I mean, we have people in our group who laugh. And, oh, here he comes again. The poor old guy. Whatever. Ask Morgan Shepherd if
or
he
Norm
feels
Benning.
like or Norm Benning. Ask either of them if they feel like the poor old guy, because I know they don't. They feel like the luckiest guys in the world.
Hey, Mike, Norm Benning, Eldora. Tell us about that. I mean, you were right there. I mean, there's an underfunded team, a guy in your sort of league, so to speak.
Me coming into the sport, I came in, I thought I knew everything, and found out I didn't know nothing. Now I understand a little bit, and I understand the politics behind it.
Yes. Sadly,
they're not Norm Benning friendly.
No, they're not.
Me and Norm talk about that a lot.
Yep.
I mean, and it's again, if you don't get no airtime, or you don't get nobody talking about you, or you don't get nobody talking, how is the sponsor going to find out about you?
Yep.
Or I mean, like Norm.
That's why we do this show, hun. This is why we do this show, and you know what? It works.
Yep. I mean, if you get somebody like Norm, he made that race on pure heart.
He did.
He drove that truck. I mean, like if it was the white flag lap, and he was winning, And
we were jumping up and down. Oh,
everybody in the world was cheering for him.
And it's like the guy could drive. Obviously, he's there. He's got talent. He could drive. People don't know. I mean, it goes right back. It takes money to hire people to help you get the truck ready. I mean, one of the good things about being a smaller team like us, we do go to the track, and like if I need something, I'll help Norm Benning. If Norm needs something, he helps me. I'm fortunate because, like Bobby Dotter, which has been around that series forever, I used to help his dad. So a lot of times when I get in trouble at the track, at Kansas, the NASCAR came and said 8 teams didn't have their truck arms or trailing arms were wrong. I'm like, well, we just ran these last week. They're wrong. So everybody's scrambling trying to find truck arms, and that's something I disagree with. If they find something and it's not a cheat, an item that's cheated up to help you win, if it's a stupid thing that has nothing to do with safety, they should say, okay, hey, next week when you come back, that's got to be changed.
Exactly.
No, NASCAR says you train your truck arms or you're not racing. So you got a line of people out by Dotter's trailer because they know he's got an extra set with him in his crash box. Well, I call Bobby up on the phone in his hotel. Hey, Bobby, I need your truck arms. And it made a lot of people mad, but I had that relationship with them where I got the truck arms to be able to race the race. So, if the smaller teams, we try to work together to help each other out. But, NASCAR should, like I said, either have it where a bigger team has to adopt a smaller team or steer, a promotional sponsor packet. Maybe that isn't $1 million sponsorship, but say for the local businesses around the track, here, we can get your name on that race car for $1,000.
Yep.
And, you get 4 or 5 of them guys that want to be on the truck for their family or their friends. And then NASCAR, as they're introducing them, hey, it's sponsored by, Jewel Osco of Shorewood, Illinois, or it's sponsored by Bill's Speed Shop or whatever the case may be. But then, it helps us. At least it bought us a couple sets of tires or paid for our entrance fee and it's the trucks ain't all bling where they go to the back of the field and nobody's got sponsors on it. There's so much they could do, and I sit there and I think in my head, why are you guys not doing these things?
Yep.
And then when I bring it up,
every
they don't
time
want
you
to hear
say
it.
it, I'm wondering why they don't.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. I mean, I'll give you a perfect example of that with Jeremy Clement's car. He put out a thing where fans could put their name in the car for $10, and it, $10 is nothing, right? So
Yep.
they raised some money, and then we came on board and said, okay, we're gonna try and raise $500 and put the Happy Hour Garage on your car, and with $500 we get a 5x5 decal and hot passes for me and my husband while we're down there so we can interview some drivers for the show. And 500, I could not raise that $500. Like, it was like,
Nope.
come on, what the hell? This is a Daytona car that's got potential. Anybody can win at Daytona.
I'm from Chicagoland. I live in Chicago, okay? And it's funny because everybody here, and I laugh about it because, you gotta have a sense of humor if you're doing this, okay?
Yeah, you better.
But everybody will call me up and say, hey, are you in town? Yeah, it's Christmas time. I'm here. I'll be heading back to the shop. I go back and forth during the winter, but I'm in Illinois. Hey, could I get you on a show down here, and we could maybe have somebody come out to our bar, and your NASCAR driver Mike Affarano is going to be here. I mean, they want me to do things and personal appearances and do all this stuff, but when it's race time, I'm like, hey, why don't you give me $500? I'll put your name on their truck. Or if there's a local Chevy store here, I buy all my trucks from. They do all my service. I just spent $7,000 with this company in the last 2 weeks getting all my trucks ready for the season. And yet, when races here, it's like, hey, why don't you bring one of your backup trucks out here, park it out in front, and come down Saturday and sign autographs and stuff? I'm like, why don't you sponsor the car? Or
Yeah.
sponsor the truck?
Exactly.
And I'll do all that.
Exactly.
I'm spending money with you, but they don't want no part of that.
That's the sad part. I mean, when we had our home hardware car, the NASCAR Canadian Tire Series, which is the biggest series in Canada, we sponsored, my company I work for, Home Hardware, sponsors Don Thompson, who is now retired, or not retired from racing, but retired from driving. And we had him come out to the store, and then we gave him a check. We actually paid him for that service. I wish we could pay you, but we don't have that kind of money. But, we will certainly encourage people to sponsor, and the shows that we're doing for these guys are just, they're bringing all kinds of people out of the woodwork, and they're realizing that some of these people are getting attention, and they're worth putting, $500 or $1,000 or $2,000 on. It really is worth it.
If the people, I'm one of these guys that, me personally, I don't do things because I'm looking for recognition or I'm not looking for a pat on the back kind of a thing, okay? But, I mean, there's so many things I do with little kids. There's so many things I do at hospitals. There's so many people that I help. And it's like, that's never heard of, or, they don't know. Or, like you just brought up the thing about the kid in
Yes.
Talladega, And I sit there and, it's like, maybe I'm doing something wrong. Maybe I need to be stuck up. Maybe I need to be, I don't get it, because I look at so many people, good drivers, and, that are in the same boat. Like you mentioned Jeremy Clements. I know Tony Clements really well. He did a couple of Miracle Motors back in the day. And the kid's got talent. The kid's, he's been at all these tracks now. He knows how to get around all these tracks. And he's, it's like, if he had some funding, he could be cup driving. If and I watch these guys throw millions and billions of dollars at a team, and I'm like, man, if you come down to Clemens' level and gave them, a quarter of that money, you would get 110 times back what you just gave a cup team.
Exactly.
Or if you came down to, but again, I blame part of that on NASCAR, because I think NASCAR should have a spotlight on every driver in the first 15 minutes. Go through the season. Start with, golden numbers. Hey, number 0, we're going to do you today, 0-1, or whatever it is, until the end of the season. But every driver should have a highlight in the beginning. I'm, NASCAR driver Mike Affarano. I drive the 03 Chevrolet, and we're looking for this and this, and our program is this, and this is what I do. I mean, if you give the teams the recognition, there might be somebody out there that says, something, I'm glad this kid does this stuff with kids. Or, hey, this guy's doing this, or this guy's got, I got something really big I can't talk about that I'm working on. but it's going to be me funding it. And, a corporate sponsor would be stupid not to jump on board with this. But I sit there and I'm like, there's so many guys that have good ideas. If somebody would just give them a chance, if NASCAR would highlight the back teams, right away, And I'm not taking nothing away from Matt Crafton because the guy paid his dues. He is what he is and he deserves to be there. Eric Jones the same way. I mean, the guy's got talent, but all of us do.
Yep.
I mean, a lot of guys could show what they could do. I mean, that's one of the reasons I've always liked the IROC series when they used to have it.
Yes.
Yes.
Because they would bring drivers from every, drag racing guys, the dirt guys, the asphalt guys, and say, okay, here, we're going to put you all in the same cars and see what you can do. And then a lot of the NASCAR guys would go, oh, my God, man, I just got whooped by a dirt guy, or I just got whooped by a sprint car guy. And what I think they should have done in that series, which would have been really cool, they should have had the IROC race in sprint cars. So not only did they do the stock cars, but then the stock car guys had to go run sprint cars. Or maybe it was Indy cars. So, I mean, everybody could have a say where, oh, look, we had a NASCAR guy in an Indy car. We had a NASCAR guy in a sprint car or an open-wheel modified, whatever the case is. I go, because the drivers could drive. If you just give us a few laps out there, we're stupid. We got no brains. We're not afraid to go fast. And when we wreck, that's like, okay, we got away with another one, and we walk away. We don't think we're going to get hurt. That would require some brains in our heads, which we have some.
Yeah, we've heard that before.
When I went to Pocono, that was the first time I ever been there. We qualified 17th. And I got out of the car after qualifying, walked up to my crew chief, and I go, so why am I doing this? It was the only time in my whole racing career I ever thought twice. When you go down that front straightaway and you turn into one, you're stupid. You ain't got a brain in your head. There's something wrong with you. And that's honest to God's truth. When I got out of the car, I said, there's something severely wrong with me. I get it now. And they're laughing. They're like, we told you. I'm like, because nobody in their right mind would do that.
And that's funny. That's the last track I would think you would say that at.
Now, I've heard Dale Jr. say the same thing. It's a quirky, weird track.
Oh my
that
God!
happens to be one of our favorite track owners there too, though.
Oh yeah, we interviewed Pocono. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
When everybody thought I'd be nervous going back to Talladega,
Yeah, I would think so. Yeah,
and that's my favorite track.
6 times.
That's
rolling.
my favorite track.
That's a crazy
I love that
track.
That's just shows you the level of stupidness that I have. It's just, wide open, big cojones, and, it's like,
apart.
okay, let's just, yeah, right. It's like, yeah, and my wife's like, you're not scared to go there? I'm like, no. I go, everywhere I think, where I sort of hold my breath is Pocono.
Yeah.
It's like, oh my God, there is something wrong with me. Because you're carrying a lot of speed down there. When you get to that corner, it's like, I got to turn. There's something wrong with you. I mean, it's just the way it is. But yeah, it's a quirky track. It's nuts.
Are you planning on racing there this year, Mike?
Oh, I hope so. We, like I said, I'm trying to work out a deal right now with, I'm too old to be doing this. Everybody knows
no,
that.
You're not.
Even NASCAR keeps telling me, you're getting old. Yeah. I still like to go fast, but the reason I'm doing this in a nutshell is I want to give younger guys a chance to come up. And then if it's a rented, rent out the ride or whatever, that's fine. I don't mind. But I'm trying to keep everything going and building so when my boys get to that age, they have the opportunity that I never had.
Is that what your goal is for the future? Like, where do you see yourself in 5 years?
5 years, hopefully my boys are behind the wheel driving. And I know they can't do the super speedways because of their age. But, I'll do that or I'll put somebody in to do that. And, I'd be an owner and do selective races like Michael Waltrip used to do.
Right.
I think he had the best of both worlds. And if not, then I keep doing it as, and then if my sons come up and say, Dad, we're done and we don't want to do this, then I'll sit back and say, okay. I'm going to be a racer for the rest of my life. And then, I don't know, maybe I'll be just a local guy and, like the rest of them, okay, we'll still race. But
like Sterling Marlin.
It's funding. If we get lucky, we could get a sponsor, a corporate sponsor. And then, like I said, they're in the driver's seat at that point. If they want a young driver, they want somebody else, then, I'm good with it. because then I could always run the backup truck and do the races that I want to do.
And you're okay with that?
So, yeah, for now. I mean, I think I still want to race. Like I said, I still have that desire to race. But it's just, for me, it's more about making sure that my kids have the opportunity that I didn't. And, I mean, I come across an awful lot of good talent on the local setups down here, in Illinois, I'm all over. So when I'm serious when I tell you, if I'm in Texas racing, there ain't nothing going on, and there's a bull ring somewhere, I'll go watch. Or if it's quarter midgets or, whatever, I go watch and I look at these kids and I'm like, man, they're so talented. It's like if they just had the break, or they just had the bunny, or they just had, a little luck,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's lots of talent out there. I mean, when we're going to Daytona, never mind the 7 actually NASCAR sanctioned events we're going to. We're going to New Smyrna Speedway a bazillion times. We're going to Volusia. We're going to all kinds of races. Yeah, we're going to all kinds of tracks. I mean, I'm not just going for NASCAR. I'm spending all this money. I'm going to go to a race every night if I can.
Hey, you're going to Speedway. You're going racing, yeah. I mean, that's what I used to do when I used to go with Bob Goddard. I mean, we would, and Bob was sort of back in the day, I used to call it, he had a dry personality. But, now I understand a little bit more that I drive. Everybody expects things and wants things, and I'm okay with it. But he was sort of shy. We would go somewhere, and they would, Bob Goddard's haulers out in the parking lot. Hey, Bob, if you're up there, come on up to the booth. Well, he wouldn't go. And I'm like, why would he go? Man, just go say hi and, talk to the fans or whatever. Nah, I'm here to watch the races. But, I mean, that's one of the good things I used to like going with him, because I went to Volusia. We would go to Volusia. We would go to New Smyrna. We would go, there's so many good drivers that it's like, wow. I mean, and then when you get burnt out on the NASCAR side of it, like I said, Xfinity, I'm done with it until I really get my crap together, because it's so much stuff involved in it with the laser setups and the table moves. And, I mean, that's tools and equipment that you can't buy.
No.
I mean, so you got to be spot on the money when you go. And, I mean, it was a learning lesson for me. It was like, hey, okay, man, I think we need to stay in trucks until we figure it all out a little bit longer.
Yep.
But until NASCAR even figures out that it's not helping the sport to get involved in all that.
It's not. I mean, well, I had a lot of good ideas. Like I said, we talked about, I actually talked to Andy Hillenberg back not too long ago about buying Rockingham. I had something that I wanted to do there, and that just never came to be, And, I mean, I would think that somebody was to start a series that wasn't involved with NASCAR and had it where the rules are the rules. I mean, I would go back to like the old days, like we used to race. You won a championship, you had to move up. It's just the way it is. And weekly races there, and you could bring in all of the old drivers like Steve Parker.
Right.
I mean, like you said, a racer's a racer. They're going to want to race no matter what. You could have it where, hey, come on out and run with, Steve Parker, run with, Kyle Petty, or run with, some of the older drivers that still have that itch. And people would be, love to see that. And, it's like, something's missing. They lost something. I mean, the fans, where the fans don't have access, that's burning out a lot of people. They're getting it to the point with the technology is, you got to have, millions of dollars worth of engineers to do stuff. I mean, they need to go back to where it was back in the day. Simple, where a guy could build a car out of his garage if he wanted to and go to the racetrack.
Well, I don't think they can go backwards.
Well, I mean, the safety part of it, I mean, I agree 100%. I mean, like I said, I mean, I ain't going to say they're 100% safe, because there's always improvement. But when it comes to NASCAR and safety, I give them 500% and 4 gold stars, 5 gold stars, because I think they're second to none.
Yep.
I mean, that's one thing. After the wreck at Talladega, I used to be one of them guys that like go through tech, and I would bitch, say, hey, listen, really, that's going to really make a difference. Just flip. After that wreck, I get it.
Yeah.
Hey, man, what they want a new bolt? Go buy a new bolt. I'm not driving this thing till the bolts. There's a reason they want it. They know. So, I mean, I don't second guess or question anything they say with the safety side of it. because obviously it saved my life, you know.
Yep.
But some of the things, I mean, you know, I like I said earlier, I do think it's a huge step in the right direction going with this motor program that they're going with. I mean, that just takes so much. You just don't know how frustrating it is as a driver, knowing that every time you go to racetrack, you know you're not going to win. You don't even have a chance to win because you can't even get them parts. You can't even buy them parts. And, you know, people say, oh, yeah, but you could rent the motor. Yeah, you could rent the motor, but you're not getting the A-line motor.
No.
You know,
and it's $150,000 too.
Yeah, you know, so, I mean, and that's the part of what the fans don't understand.
No.
Where they'll come up to me or they'll talk to me, and then when they leave, they're like, "Oh wow, man, I didn't know that." You know, because like I said, no filter. I don't hide nothing. It is what it is, and
that's why we do this show.
Yeah, I mean, that's exactly right. So kudos to NASCAR for what they're doing with this engine deal. The only thing where it did hurt us a little bit, we'll get screwed up a little bit. Daytona, this motor package is not coming out until Charlotte is the first race you can get it. So usually you sign a motor deal, and that's for Daytona and Atlanta for the whole year, okay? So for us, if we want to go with this new motor deal that they're doing now, we're done. You know, we're sort of in limbo on the motors.
You're committed to the whole year. Like
you've
got to come up or with all the money or not, right?
Right. So I mean, for us, it's like, okay, you know, we started building new motors because I own no motors, and I said, no, we ain't going to do that. We're going to go with another engine company and rent motors. We're going to be an RO7s. And then, luckily, I'm one of the few that didn't sign the deal yet. And I'm like, so now I'm trying to rent motors for 2 races, Daytona and Atlanta, and then, you know, their motors come out for Charlotte. So then I'll have their motor for Charlotte if everything goes right.
Mm.
But, I mean, it's just, you know, I wish they would have said this back in June or July, you know, like they went to a new spec radiator. And the radiators, you know, again, you know what a radiator costs, okay? A radiator ain't a lot of money. You buy a brand new radiator for a car, even a race car, say a dirt car, you're $300-400, okay? This deal, they only got one supplier, which is not good, so it's sort of monopoly kind of a thing. And the radiator is like $3,800.
Wow.
So when you get, and now Cup don't have to run these radiators, and Xfinity don't have to run these radiators. The trucks do. And then, you know, maybe next year, the Xfinity, maybe the year after that, Cup. Usually it starts in Cup, and then it trickles down to the trucks. So then we usually try and buy some of the used stuff, you know. But,
wow,
you know,
that's a big difference in price.
Oh, yeah. So, I mean, and it's only one supplier. I mean, if you would open it up to
that
3 or 4 guys.
Sense. Yeah.
No, I mean, it's a money grab. I mean, like I say it the way I see it. And, you know, there's nothing wrong with the old radiators that we have. You know, that's what Cup's running. That's what Xfinity is running. But I guess that's not good enough for us now. So that new radiator's $3,800 for everybody.
That's a
lot. And
then
then when you get somebody like Norm Benning or somebody like me or somebody, you know, the smaller teams, Joe, you know, Jennifer Joe, I mean, that's a tough pill to swallow. But yet they want to make the sport, you know, more, you know, affordable for everybody and let people be able to get into the sport. It's like, well, you're going about it the wrong way. I mean, if they would take a little bit of what ARCA's doing, I think would go a long way. You know, I commend ARCA. I mean, on the fact that they're doing the spec motor.
Right.
They're doing the spec body.
Right.
I mean, the body.
And they've been moving into you could still run the old motor as well.
But it's still 10 guys running top 10 every single week.
Well, you know, and if you look at it, it's the Venturini cars that could afford the new technology, the motors.
Right.
I mean, even the truck motor, our motors on that we run are 358 cubic inch. Well, the new truck motor that's coming, the spec motor, is based off a 400 cubic inch motor. So you're already more cubic inches bigger with the spec motor. And that's what ARCA did. They went with all the gas motors that we ran were 358s, and the new motors are 396 and more. So, I mean, cubic inch is horsepower. So, I mean, they took the motor. I mean, we went down to Daytona with a car last year. We were 7th on the leaderboard in practice. Andy Hillenberg ran the car for us. tested it, and now Rick Clifton, and we're 7th on the leaderboard. Took the same car, same setup, same everything, back to the race and didn't make the race. And I'm like, how the hell could that be? Well, then, they found out that their new motor, our gas motors, were still able to run with their new inboards, and they gave us a different plate. So, they just choked the motor more. We, didn't have horsepower and just got sent home. And everybody asked, are you going ARCA racing? I said, never again. I mean, it's got to be fair for everybody.
Mm-hmm.
You can't change the rules in the middle of the game.
Nope.
I mean, because the same thing I told NASCAR. I said, you want to cater to Kyle Busch, which brings 2 or 4 trucks or whatever the weekend it happens to be, and then you want to say Brad Keselowski's in that same category because he's a Cup guy. I go, so you're catering to 6 trucks or 4 trucks, depending on how you look at it. He's like, yeah. I go, what about the rest of the 26 trucks that you're screwing over? I go, people say, well, racing's not fixed because, you all got the chance. No, we all don't have the chance. We all don't have that same opportunity. No, we all don't have that horsepower. When you could go to the store and you could buy Folgers coffee everywhere you want to go buy Folgers coffee, but there's the problem if you could buy Folgers and I got to buy Maxwell House. Maybe I don't like Maxwell House. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
That's the same thing. I mean, when you can't buy exactly what they have, and then they want you to compete with them people, and then they frown on you when you can't compete with them, it's like, this ain't my screw up. This is your screw up.
Yep.
There's a reason we can't compete. When you can't get the same parts they got, and even when it's not even a money issue, like I said, we can't even buy that technology. And up until recently, Jeremy Clements is another one. I mean, he ran SP2s forever. I think this is the first year he's actually got enough RO7 parts that he could piece something together, and he's been running some RO7 stuff. But it's still not the technology of what they're running.
No, and
So,
it's like an elitist sport. If you're gonna be in NASCAR at either trucks, Xfinity, or Cup, you better be up there challenging and have lots of money. Otherwise, they're only going to use you as a field filler, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely, absolutely. I mean,
It's too bad.
And they cater to the ones that are there. I mean, I almost sometimes I question this, and I got to bite my mouth because I do want to stay in the sport, and I do, I love it. I mean, it's an honor to race NASCAR. I mean, it's a privilege. I mean, but when you look at things and you say, I actually question and say, well, man, I wonder if NASCAR only wants 6 owners. And they go, what do you mean? I go, well, if you think about it, if I asked you, you've been around the sport a long time, how many of the Cup guys have Rick Hendrick horsepower?
Lots.
I would say almost half the field.
Yep, lots.
I mean, you got his
Every
four,
Chevy.
you got Tony Stewart's four.
Every
I mean,
Chevy.
right. I mean, so, you got him, and let's face it, Tony Stewart is another Hendricks.
He is.
That's all Hendricks stuff,
Yep.
okay?
Yep.
So when you look at Furniture Row and you got all these guys, and then you go, okay, how many of them are RCR? And then all the Toyotas are together.
Yep.
All right,
Chevy,
so,
Ford, Toyota, whatever.
Yeah, so you look at it and you say, okay, well, you got Hendricks, which is all of him, all of Stewart, all of them guys. You got RCR, which is all of this guy, all of that guy. You got Joe Gibbs, which is all of this, all of that. I mean, and then you take the same owners, and you're doing the same thing in Xfinity. And then they're wondering why there's no money for us small guys coming in. It's like, well, the pig's up on top. See, I'm a firm believer. We order a pizza, we all take a slice. And NASCAR up on the top with them team owners, they all eat first and then we get the crumbs. And that's not right.
No, it isn't. It really isn't.
I don't think an owner, a team owner, any series should own more than 2 cars. And I think if you own a Cup team, that's fine. You own a Cup team. Then, have somebody else, and I don't mean your brother, I don't mean your mother or an uncle, own an Xfinity team. Somebody else owns an Xfinity team. If you choose, like I was talking about earlier about adopting a lower team to help.
I like your mentoring idea. That's a great idea, actually.
then let them get their their Xfinity driver, their mentoring deal from a team. Let them work with them and help that team. Mm-hmm. But what's happening right now, why do people? I mean, and this is what I don't think NASCAR gets. As much as people, like I said earlier, as much people like Kyle Busch or Tony Stewart. Okay, there's a lot of people that hate Tony Stewart. There's a lot of guys that love him, and it's the same thing with team owners. You look, and there's a lot of people that don't like Hendricks or even go brands. There's a lot of. I'm a Chevy guy. I don't exactly care for Ford. Okay.
Yep.
But if Ford came to me and said, "Hey, listen, we want you to run Fords we want you to run Toyotas, and we're going to give you factory support," well, guess what? I have no reason to stay with Chevy. They do absolutely nothing for me. They can't even get my Silverado that I bought new fixed. It's been to the dealer more times than I drive it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So, I mean, there's no love lost there.
Nope.
But when you get, all these guys working together, it's like, okay, Joe Gibbs, you run a Cup team? Yep. You got Toyotas? Yeah. Okay. You want to own an Xfinity team? Yep. It's got to be a Chevrolet. What? It's got to be a Chevrolet.
Yeah.
Because now they're
probably
not
wouldn't work
together.
Yeah.
Well, now they're not working together.
That's right. No, that would not work.
Okay, you want to run a truck team also? Yeah. Okay. Well, that's got to be a Ford.
Yeah. Yeah. No. I can't imagine that would work.
No. Well, and that's the idea. It's not supposed to work.
Yeah. Exactly.
I mean, these guys are, they're so full of themselves and they're building empires, and that's what's wrong with the sport. People don't want to go see. I mean, I told the guy this the last interview I did. I go, Home Alone's playing at the show for Christmas. Yeah. It's going to play for 2 months. Yeah. You want to go to the show every week? Why would we go back every week if it's the same show? Exactly. Well, exactly. Why would you go back to the racetrack every week if it's the same show?
Mm-hmm.
And their chase format is the stupidest thing I've ever heard of.
Oh, that's coming your way.
If you're the top of the heat at the end of the, if you're the leader in points at the end of the deal, you should be the champion. Not wipe the slate clean and okay, we're going to start over. And I hate to say this because I know I'm going to get a lot of slack. I don't think Kyle Busch should have been the championship. I don't think Kyle Busch should have got a waiver. He wasn't in a Cup race when he got hurt. He was in an Xfinity race that he chose to be there.
A lot of people feel like that.
I mean, that guy didn't win the championship. I mean, yeah, he's our champion, and, kudos to him because he is a good driver. And he's got a lot of heart. Obviously, he went through a lot of adversity with the operations and doing what he did. But he's not the champion. That's actually a joke, and all the fans look at it, and the NASCAR lost a lot more fans.
Yeah, that was quite a deal. That one that caused a lot of uproar in the world.
You look at Dale Earnhardt Sr. I mean, and then like I said, I'm not a fan of the Cup guys at all. Okay, because I think they're full of themselves. There are a few that are down to earth. Matt Kenseth being one of them.
Yeah, I like him.
I don't think Matt Kenseth should have been penalized either. Logano, it's a racing deal. Hey, you took me out, I took you out.
That's right.
It is
payback.
what it is.
Well, I think the fans spoke volumes there.
I mean, and again, NASCAR doesn't call, and they lost a lot of fans.
No, you know what? That particular incident, the fans went nuts, and I think NASCAR realized that. I mean, Twitter exploded with people that were happy about it.
Yep. I mean, it's, they look back in their heyday, NASCAR, when they were, couldn't do no wrong. They had Dale Earnhardt Sr. driving, okay? And I don't want to say Dale Earnhardt Sr. because he actually was my favorite driver, okay? That's the guy that I looked up to when I was younger.
Yeah, Maroon too.
I got a lot of autographs from the guy. I got a lot of pictures with the guy, but the guy was dirty. If you got his way, he was going to take you out.
Yeah, but
NASCAR, and they flurried. Look at all the fans. Look at everybody. I mean, they put the guy on a pedestal. Now you can't touch a guy. You can't bump a guy. You can't do nothing to a guy. It's like, well, the guy took me out. Guess what? I mean, what do you think? What do you think Earnhardt Sr. would have done to Logano if Logano did that to him?
Yeah, he would have been flying through the wall. Same. I love what Kenseth did.
It would have been the same race. He wouldn't have waited a week later.
Nope.
He probably. I don't think Logano would have won that race. I think he would have took him out. He would have sat on pit road and took him out.
Yeah, probably. No,
I mean,
that was a huge ratings in the series when that happened. It was huge.
I mean, I thought Matt did the right thing.
Yeah.
They're like, oh, he did this and that. I said, man, it's racing. That's freaking well. He ain't going to wait a week or 2 or 3. You knocked me out of the chase. You knocked me out of the championship. Let me return the favor.
Yeah. Yep. It's very true. Well, you know something. It's been fascinating. Listen to your take on stuff, and I really hope that our show will get you some sponsorship, and we'll see you in Daytona, and I'll come down and say hi because I'll be there, and you know, I hope we can get you somewhere because you've got lots of heart and passion, and you are a true racer of the fans, and you know what? That says a whole lot about you.
Well, I appreciate it. Thank you. And you come down, we'll squeeze you in the truck.
Yeah, and it will be a squeeze. Get my fat butt in there in that little window.
It can't be no fatter than mine.
Well, I know on behalf of Maureen and myself and Buddy, our PR guy, who's an amazing guy, we thank you, Mike. We've sure enjoyed talking to you, and I wish you all the luck in Daytona. And I will come down and say hi. You can bet your booties.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Appreciate the time. Thank you so much.
You're very welcome.
We'll talk to you.
We hope you've enjoyed hanging out in the Happy Hour Garage. Thanks for tuning in. Please join Shannon and Maureen next week for another episode of NASCAR news, interviews, and stories. Check out our website at www.happyhourgarage.com for our previous shows and see what's coming up next.